You're listening to Flow Insider, a podcast for creative entrepreneurs who want a fresh perspective on business, communication, and art.
Hi, Ellie. Good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
I am doing well. Well, it's not morning for me anymore,
I
but
was gonna say, yeah, it's probably a little different on your end.
yeah, my day is like I'm ready for bed. No, I'm good. I had a lovely day. I even managed to get out to the beach for 5 minutes and enjoy some sunshine.
Oh,
Yes, because I live by the beach, which is really nice. So I'm doing okay, and I'm really excited to talk to you. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. I've had a few meetings this morning, definitely had some coffee, and I just adore you guys in general. So I'm excited for this conversation.
Awesome. Well, let's do it. Let's jump right in. Um,
Love it.
for people who are listening and don't know you, Ellie, can you give us a little introduction, like where you're from, where do you live, what do you do, what has brought you here?
Yes, so my name is Ellie McKinney, and I am with Ellie McKinney Photography, based out of North Carolina. I focus on weddings and elopements and capturing all love stories. And I also mentor other photographers on the business side. And so I've been a photographer since 2011, but I have more recently taken it on full time. So full time for just 3 years now.
Beautiful. How are you finding it full time?
Oh, I wouldn't have it any other way. So, what's funny is I have a little boy and I thought, "Oh my gosh, I can do photography part-time and be at home a ton." And then I like 6 months into being a parent, I was like, I don't think being a stay-at-home mom is my journey. So, I love being a mom, but adult time and just focusing on romance as a job. How amazing is that? So, definitely into it full time and probably more as we know full-time photographers end up working quite a bit. So, all good things.
Thanks for being honest about that. I love that.
Yeah, definitely. Always transparent, which I guess we'll find in this conversation. But I think it's good to know that, uh, for being a business owner or being a parent, it doesn't always have to look the same for everybody. So it's just
Yeah.
fun to openly say.
That's so important. And what did you do before being a full-time wedding photographer? Like, was that always the plan, being a wedding photographer?
Not at all. So before I was a photographer, I mean, like when I was younger, I used to help my little brother make his rap videos. I did videography for I had you almost choking on your coffee.
It's
I
because
love it.
we're in England, so that's tea.
Oh, that's tea. I should have known. I should have known.
That's fine.
Um,
But that
but
was
no.
rap video.
Oh, oh my gosh, he thought he was something, and then I was, like, having him walk down the neighborhood street doing all these, like, super cool transitions, and
Shout out
I
to your
mean
brother if he's listening.
I know, absolutely. I forgot what he called himself. Anyway, we don't need to go there, but the in my adulthood, I went to college for business and focused on fashion. So I work with company retailers like The Loft and Michael Kors, and I even
Mm.
worked at Target in the very beginning. So I had a retail background and I was focused on employee development always. So whenever I became a photographer, it felt like this piece was missing. And once I added education, I felt fulfilled again because I was able to not only focus on capturing these love stories, but then helping other photographers get to that place where they could feel confident in their business too.
Beautiful. And I had a little peek on your Instagram, and everything you share is it's so beautiful, and there's so much that's focused on giving to the community and sharing and supporting other photographers, which I really like.
Thank you. It was something where in the beginning I was like, are my clients going to be like, what the heck is she like? Why?
Mm,
What is she focusing on?
mm,
So I decided, just speaking to the point of being transparent, I sent all of my clients at that time an email that said, hey, here's where I'm thinking. This was actually, I started the education side during COVID last year
I'm
just
sorry.
to my time, I had more time than normal. And I just thought, if I'm going to do this at any point, it's going to be now.
Yeah,
I've actually
good
got the
timing.
time. Yeah, so I emailed clients and just like let them know that they're going to start to see a shift. But then I know if I'm teaching other photographers, I can be a much better photographer if I'm always education focused. So now it's like they're my fans. They're like, yes, like I love that you share all these things for photographers. And I do get a lot of entrepreneurs as clients, and so they like seeing the information too, it seems.
Beautiful. That's so sweet that you informed your clients.
I did.
That's,
I did.
that's so lovely. By the way, just a warning.
Exactly. I was like, if I'm having anxiety around this, that probably means I can solve it.
Oh, yeah.
So why not just reach out and be like, hey, here's what I'm doing.
I never would have thought of doing that, but that's really, really sweet. And I guess, yeah, it is one way of solving it, and letting people know what you're up to, and also just strengthening that bond between you and clients. That's really beautiful.
Well, thank you.
So one thing that's very, very obvious very quickly when going through your social media, your website, is how open you are, and transparent and honest. And authenticity is a big buzzword, isn't it?
Yes,
It's like,
absolutely.
it's very trendy, to be authentic and to be transparent. What exactly does that mean for you? How has that changed your business or your life? Not just work, but your life. Is that something, like a marketing strategy, or is it more than just a strategy?
Yes, the authenticity, such a buzzword. I talk about this in my captions too, but it's like it became
Mm-hmm.
trendy for such a good reason. And
Mm-hmm.
I think in the beginning, it was like, oh my gosh, you have to be authentic. If you love pizza, talk about how you love pizza. And then I'm sitting over here like, I mean, that's cool. I like pizza too. But at the same time, we're
Mm-hmm.
more than just storytellers. We're more than just photographers. There's something deeper to us, and the reason why we became a photographer. And so to be able to communicate that, that's where that authenticity comes in. But it's
Yeah.
hard as new photographers to figure out what that's supposed to look like for
Mm-hmm.
you.
Mm-hmm.
And so for me, I'm torn because I'm excited that it's trendy, but I'm also a little annoyed because I feel like there's false information that some educators, and not to like say anyone is wrong. There's no right
Yeah.
explanation for this, but it's for me about finding those core values, the why as to why you became a photographer, and then being able to speak to it, because not only are you sharing more of yourself so that they can understand who they're going to be spending their time with and trusting
Mm-hmm.
these memories to,
Mm-hmm.
but that, you know, at the end of the day, you have something that you can constantly speak to. There's a
Mm-hmm.
ton of people who mention that they don't know what to put in captions or what to write blogs about. And if you have your core values, you're able to go back to that time and time again. And so that's where the authentic self comes out the most. And then you're benefiting clients because they know what to expect. They know who you are, and you're able to
Mm-hmm.
serve them on a higher level because of it.
That's so, so, so true. It's like when you know your truth, you always have something to say. You can always speak from your truth.
Totally.
You just mentioned your why. Have you read Start With Why by Simon Sinek?
No, I
Oh
need
my gosh,
to.
you would love that book.
What's so funny is I'm a horrible reader, and so I think it's more of an attention span thing and just my mind going to all these different. I'm a horrible reader, but if it is an audiobook, I can like my favorite time is to learn while driving. I know that sounds sort of
Okay.
weird, but it's just the best time for me to be able to attach myself to these thought processes and books like that, and that
Mhm.
one's actually on my list.
It's incredible. Like, yeah, then just listen to it if you can't read it.
Yeah,
Like, it's,
yeah.
gosh, I've given that book to so many people. I used to give it to everyone at my workshops. I gave it to friends. Like, I should get commissions for that book.
You should be an affiliate.
I should be an affiliate. Like, I have emailed Simon Sinek's team a few times about other things, not about that. But they know me. They know my name there. It's such a fantastic book. So beneficial. I think you'll really, really love it. How would you describe your why then? What are your core values? What is your why?
Absolutely. I have two
Mm-hmm.
that I go to no matter what. I think if I were to break it down, I'd have about five, but who has time for the whole rundown? So I think the most important ones for me, number one, above anything else, always nonstop for me, is equality. So I
Mm-hmm.
want couples, no matter what their background is, no matter what they look like, no matter what they believe in, they are welcome. And I want to tell their story for who they are.
Yeah.
It started at a really young age for me in elementary school. I've lived in the South in the US. I live in North Carolina, like where this area is not known for being super progressive. And so
Yeah.
for me, being in elementary school and noticing that people were being treated differently because of the color of their skin,
Mm-hmm.
never set well. I started those conversations really early with my parents, and they were extremely just the bright light that the world needs, and were able to lead me in such beautiful directions. But,
Mm-hmm.
for me as an adult, I know that I can make a difference, even if it's on a super small scale. So,
Mm-hmm.
equality, all the things that I mentioned, I want every single person to feel welcome in my photography business and know that I'll also have their back in that too.
Yeah.
So that's the core value that I drive as much as possible. And
I
to
have
be fair,
goosebumps. I have goosebumps. Can you see them?
oh, I love it.
I
Oh,
love
I know.
this so much. I love this so much.
Oh, good. I think I could cry.
Go for
Just I know. Seriously, you'll get the sniffles. So, um, I don't necessarily find myself fitting into a certain category, even though I am a white female. I struggle with the
it.
white community because I don't understand how people don't see this, and then
Mhm.
I can't relate fully to the Black community because I have no clue what that's like, right? So I'm in this middle ground where I want to have purpose, I want to make a difference, but I need to be super aware and
Mhm.
almost careful about what strides I try to make and how I try to make them. So, um, and it's just something that's been huge these past few years, along with supporting LGBTQ plus. I mean, there is no or someone who's even non-religious. Like, I just want every single person to find a safe space within me, who I surround myself with, the vendors that I connect with, and people that I am inviting into these couples' lives also.
Mhm. Yeah,
Um,
exactly.
yeah, so that's like the major core value. And then my second one is a little lighter, but still important. And it's a sense of community. So I
Mhm.
want people to, it almost goes hand in hand, but I want people to
Mhm.
know that I care about more than just if they have like designer bridesmaids dresses, for example, or whatever it is. I want a feeling of, oh man, you would think I know how to word this. Not even family, because I do like it to stay professional, but a sense of support
Yeah.
nonstop from their photographer vendor. So
Yeah. Yeah. Because there's this thing in the wedding industry. I was a wedding photographer for 10 years, and there was a big thing about, supporting your clients to make the wedding pretty, you know, to make it look good for the photos.
yes,
As you just said, to have whatever, if it's like designer bags or to
yes,
like to support in that way. And while that is nice, and beautiful, and of course it has its place, I think there's support that goes beyond that, definitely.
definitely. And I think that COVID in general has been
Mm.
it's just made it even more realistic because people are going through way more than what anybody has to try to have a wedding
Yeah.
these days. And so just creating that sense of community and support throughout that process has been
Mm.
huge. And I just realized how much more we could probably be doing whenever there's not a pandemic that is affecting everything. So,
Very true, very true. And
yes.
have you shot any weddings last year or this year, like during the pandemic? How
I
was
have. I have. So I have had some clients who have been like, you know what, we're eloping. We just want it to be the two of
Yes.
us. Maybe a few, yes. And it has been so fun because they just choose whatever the heck they want. They rock it. They end up having like this dream vision that they're able to pursue because they're not worried about all of these
Amazing.
guests and their food. And then
Mm-hmm.
I also have clients who like love big weddings. And so they've found bigger venues to allow it or have done everything outdoors. Um, we're in a weird place here in North Carolina because we have rules and regulations. The consistency behind that, yeah, that's a little interesting. So
Yeah.
just being able to again be transparent, communicate as much as possible to understand
Mhm.
what these couples are wanting to do, their whys behind it, and then trying to make
Mhm.
the best out of that for what's allowed.
Mm. I feel like everyone in the US is saying the same thing. It's like, well, some people are like, no, there's no lockdown at all. There's no rules at all in some places, and in other places, like, yeah, technically
Yes.
we are in lockdown, but nobody is like locked down. Everyone's outside and everyone's doing things and stuff.
Yeah, it's so odd because I haven't seen like my best friends in over a year.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, so it's but my husband is in healthcare.
Oh,
So I'm constantly faced with all of the changes that he has to make, what he is paying attention to, and how
mm,
he wants to make a difference.
mm,
And then my photography business, where it's
mm,
like, I'm the kind of photographer to where I'm like, I'm going to do whatever this couple wants. I
mm.
mean, like,
Yes.
I'm not ever going to tell them
Mm,
no unless it's detrimental
mm,
to me, or maybe I mean it would have to be a lot because there's always ways for me to use an 85 millimeter instead of a 35 being right up on them for certain things. And so there's a lot of ways that I can adjust, which are smaller but also are, protecting me in those scenarios and them as well. So it is really confusing to know what the heck to do. So I think we're
mm,
just taking it
mm.
one day at a time over here in the
Yeah, and one
US.
case at a time as well. Like, with every client, it's different, and you just have to judge case by case, I guess.
Yes, exactly.
Has the last year and shifting a little more into education, um, how has that changed your? Well, I guess it has slowed down your business a little bit with photography itself, right? How has that changed your work, not work ethic, that's the wrong word, but like your work mindset?
Workflow. Yeah.
Yeah, the flow and the hustle of it all. Um, how has that impacted your day to day and just your mindset really? Did you notice a change, a shift? Has it slowed you down? Do you appreciate that, or how has that been for you?
Quite the roller coaster.
Oh.
So, yeah, quite literally ups and downs and all arounds.
Mm,
The thing about, this past year or so was in the
mm,
beginning, it did feel slow. And
mhm.
I am a hustler. I do not like slow. It just was something where I was like, I'm gonna come up with more projects because this is not what I
That's not
wasn't,
it.
I told you about the stay-at-home mom situation. It was not my journey. I didn't feel fulfilled or
Mm,
like I could be the best mom. The same thing happened with COVID when
mhm.
all of these reschedules and cancellations for about 3 months where we had to stay at home,
Yeah.
it got really slow. And I just thought, there's this piece of me in my business where I want to teach others, about very specific things. Like, I don't
Yeah.
want to teach people about their camera functions or I want to help these creatives on the business side.
Mm-hmm.
And I redid my entire website. I said, you know what? Okay, sure. I'm going to take this route. And I redid my entire website with flow themes, actually.
Woohoo!
Yes. I love it. I love it. I wanted
Little plug.
something. I know. Not even like purposefully plugging, but there it is. And
Love
it
it.
just made such an easy layout as far as like simplistic but to the point and just beautiful, and let my images be the main focus, but then I can make an education tab so easily and just create something from scratch where I was like, I'm not doing this yet, but I'm about to. So everybody kind of needs to know what my focuses are, because I'm not a mentor for a brand new photographer. I'm a
Mm-hmm.
mentor for somebody who has been doing this for a little bit and they want to be able to take it to the next level, to hit that next big number of income or decide how they're going to grow their business. The
Mm-hmm.
actual growth strategy of business planning makes me so happy, which I know makes me a really weird photographer. So
No, makes
during
total
COVID,
sense. Yeah.
during COVID, I decided to make a business plan for the mentoring side of my business
Mm-hmm.
and just jumped right in and continuing to learn from other educators who I wanted to be like or who I just see completely differently from, and being able to base my focuses around how I know for a fact I could impact others.
Mm-hmm. You say you're a hustler.
Yes. Yes.
How do you balance that? How do you deal with that? Because like, or what does your hustle look like? Like, how do you make sure? Sorry, I always ask like 15 questions in a row. That's
Honestly, they all go together, so I
kind
like
of
it.
that's in my head. In my head, they do, but then sometimes I feel sorry for the person I'm talking to. I'm like, I hope it doesn't like make them. It's kind of like one question, but I put it into five different questions. But like, yeah, how do you make sure not to overwork yourself? Not to. How do you take care of yourself, basically?
I'm not so great at that part, and I'll be
Mm.
honest in saying it. It's
Mhm.
been something that I've had to work on for a really, really long time, because anything that I do, I want to be the absolute best at it.
Mhm.
And oh man, it's
Mhm.
I am much better than I used to be, but
Mhm.
I have had to become somebody that I am not naturally, meaning
Okay.
organization. I've had to block out hours on my calendar for time off. And I
Mhm.
know that might sound crazy, but I do an hour by hour schedule just to make sure that I don't work myself to death. And it's
Yeah.
something I'm finally in a good routine with.
Mhm.
But in the beginning, I made mistakes that way and just became exhausted and ended up not liking photography, because I would just like, this was back whenever I was doing family sessions, and I would just do them back to back at a local
Mhm.
park, and just like from
Mhm.
a mini session standpoint, and would come home, sit in my car in the driveway and not get out, just sit there and cry, because I was like, I feel like I'm just clicking my camera. I'm not connecting with people. I don't
Mhm.
see how this is benefiting anybody, because by the end of the day, of course, clients didn't notice any of this. So I'm being very vulnerable in voicing this.
Mhm.
Uh, while I did find some joy in it, it really did just eat me alive and made me realize that I have to take care of myself in order to be the best business owner that I can be. So for
Mhm.
me, that looks like planned time off. So I just have certain days in my calendar that I'm off, and it won't show up that I'm available for anyone else. And then also realizing that a week off is not necessarily healthy for me. Working an hour or two every day for a week, now that's super healthy, because
Oh,
I still find the balance for me. And so I just give myself more quote unquote weeks off throughout the year, but then just touching base with my business. But I'm looking to get out of that too. It's just been baby steps and stepping stones of figuring out, why the heck am I like this? And what is triggering me to feel like I have to or want to work all the time, and specifically being so self-aware that I can adjust and stop myself from falling into those triggers each time that they happen, like an inquiry or somebody texting me, those type of triggers, and being
Mm-hmm.
able to say, here's my routine response that I have come up with to help me separate myself. So let me follow through with this email template or automated response or whatever that might look like. And so it's taken a lot of work. And I'll admit, I am not the best at work life balance, but I am getting so much better.
Beautiful. Thank you for sharing that and for being transparent to
Yeah.
use,
Yes.
to use the word. That's obviously, yeah, that's a vulnerable thing. And if, especially like if you don't have something figured out yet, to say, I don't have it figured out yet, but you're actually aware of it, which is super cool. So
Yes.
that's the first step, I guess, to changing it. And it's interesting to me that you said you're trying to figure out why you are that way, and why the heck you feel that way.
Yes.
I guess on there's that side of being your own boss where you obviously love what you do, and you can be immersed in it all the time, and it's fun even when it's hard, and even when it's a lot, it's still fun. And it gives you life, and it gives you energy, and it's exciting. Or just simply the fact even to just really want it to be a success and wanting it to go well. So we just invest like every waking hour into it. So there's that aspect. And then there's also the aspect of, well, how is that linked to my worth and my value? Like, what do I believe about my identity or my value if I'm not working, if I'm not
Right.
if I'm not giving anything, if I'm not producing anything? And I think it's something we fall into so easily as creatives, because we identify so much with what we create, with our product, that's it's so close to us that becomes our worth as well, what we do.
Yes. Yes.
Right. And that's kind of wrong.
It's not okay. No.
It's not okay. It's very,
No.
yeah, it's very much not okay. It's kind of, you still need, as much as, yes, we are so, interwoven with our art and with our creations, but we still like need that understanding and that separation. That's, our work is not our worth. Like, it has nothing to do with that.
Right.
And we don't have to produce to be worthy.
Oh, I know I needed to hear that. So I'm so glad that you covered that, because I think all listeners can fall into this category, and we just fear failure so much,
Mm-hmm.
so that's where that separation I've found for myself is harder, because I
Mm-hmm.
do want to focus on all
Mm-hmm.
of these things all of the time, and it's just not healthy.
No, it isn't. And it's beautiful that you are on that journey, and that you're figuring things out. So thank you for sharing that with us.
Yeah,
Um,
for sure.
Talking about like self-awareness and journey and personality, you are totally into Enneagrams.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
So I've heard, and so I've seen on your Instagram as well, um, and I'd love to know, because you're an advocate for knowing, especially as a creative. I mean, anyone, but especially as a creative, as a photographer, you're an advocate of knowing your Enneagram number and how to leverage that for your business and for your photography. How like, do you want to
Yes.
elaborate on that? Like, why do I need to know my Enneagram number as a photographer, and how can I use that?
Yes, I think the biggest miss is that people sometimes don't want to be fit into a box, or they don't want to take a test to tell them, the way that they are. But what we have to
Mhm.
understand is that the more self aware that we can become on how we're perceived, or perceived, I can't even say the word, it makes the biggest difference in our business. So if we're not focusing on the way that we affect other people, are we really serving them in the best way possible?
So
So
impact, you mean?
yes, yes.
Mhm.
And a little bit of background, my dad is a psychologist. And
Okay.
so I like, yes. So it stems from that. And I've been digging into personality types for quite some time. And I decided to include the Enneagram into my mentoring because if
Amazing.
someone of course does not want to take the test, I'm not going to force them to, but
Come
I will be like, are you sure?
on,
But
it's not a big deal, dude. Just do the test.
just do the test, okay? Listen to me. You hired me for a reason.
Exactly.
But the Enneagram is a tool, right? Like it's not an end all be all situation. It's a tool for us to understand what motivates us and on the other side, our biggest fears. And so, what
Mhm.
this can help us with in our business is exactly that. My biggest fear, I'll just give a prime example, is failure. And so
Mhm.
the thing that I struggle with the most for business is nonstop wanting to work towards something to be the best, to achieve and achieve and achieve, and
Mhm.
not giving myself time just to see myself as worthy outside of work. And so this is something that has helped me realize this on a deeper level. And, this is where I came up with the game plan of how I would change my ways to better adjust, knowing that my biggest fear is failure and seeing things that were actually stopping me in my own tracks in my business because of it.
Mhm. Mhm.
And so what people can see is that in all of these personality type categories, there's 9 of them that make up the Enneagram. We as humans have a little bit of all 9 in us. So it's not like you have to fit into a number and say that you are defined by this, because you might be a different person in a relationship than you are as a business owner.
Mhm.
But whenever you take the test and have that business owner mentality in mind, it's very eye opening on how you're affecting your clients, the way that you're coming across, what motivates you to do more, doubling down on those things, and then
Mhm.
figuring out what is stopping you in your tracks and making routines around changing that so that you can continue to evolve not only as a business owner, but just as a human in general, and just be happier with yourself and your self awareness.
I mean, I don't know why anyone would not want to know that and would not.
Right.
I would not want that information. Information is power. Like it's so useful. That's amazing. So you are an Enneagram, what
I
number?
am a 3 wing 2.
Okay.
So what this basically means is the 3 is called the achiever. So
Mhm.
again, that hustle mentality, and it's a
Mhm.
buzzword where people are just like, "Ew, you don't want to hustle? Like what? Nobody wants to hustle." And I'm like, "No, I'm the personality type who like loves that word. It's okay if you don't like it, but it makes me really happy." And
Oh, I
then
can see it in your
um
face how happy it makes you.
I'm just like, I love it.
I love
What?
hustle.
Why not hustle just to be able to have, a better life and more time off
Course.
later, or whatever that looks like. But at the same time, I have a wing too, which the 2 category is called the helper. And so that is why I didn't feel truly fulfilled as a photographer until I started doing education pieces and helping
Mhm.
others in their business. It just made me the combination of the characteristics combined with my background and what I had focused on previously before photography, it made so much sense to me after becoming more self aware of the direction that my business needed to take. And so it's
Mhm.
just made more clarity for the future. And then it's interesting, but people on my team, so I'm hiring a virtual assistant and I've got an associate photographer, I have somebody who helps me edit. It's not that it can be a part of the interview process. That's probably illegal. I don't know. I don't know the specifics. Don't don't listen to me on that. It's probably something's probably wrong with that. But I will say the conversations that I get to have with the partnerships in either my marriage or in business, and just knowing how their minds work. And there's explanations to why people react to everything or what their motivations are. And so it's just made me more connected with my team, with my family. And so it's a tool that helps you become more self-aware, and easier conversation comes from that.
That is true. Do you categorize people in your head when you meet them, when you talk to them, or when you look at their Instagram? Do you kind of guess in your head, oh, I bet she's a 5 or whatever?
Absolutely. Are you supposed to? No, you're
No.
not. You're not. So it's something that once you get into it, you're kind of like, ooh, I know everything. And you got to
It's
stay out of
kind
that
of,
mentality, because
yeah,
you
it's
just
kind of
can't.
inevitable though, I think. Like
Yeah.
if you're really immersed in a topic, it's inevitable sometimes to meet someone and be like, ah, I think like, and just think that about them.
What's cool is that I'm really attracted to work relationships with eights, which are people who just sort of speak what's on their mind. There's not much of a filter, but I love not having to guess. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh, I love that part. And so what's interesting is that you can you can think of eights as being so upfront or harsh, or you can start to think of their Enneagram and realize that it's because they don't like the unknown. They want to be able to be clear and concise. And so it's just understanding yourself, but then while you also don't want to put people in categories or judge other people, it's really nice to know the underlying potential reasoning to their behaviors instead of just judging harshly.
Yeah, absolutely. That's very true. Let's play a game.
I'm down. Let's do it.
I am an Enneagram 4.
Oh, yes. Yes.
And I think my wing is 1 and 3, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
What do I do now?
Yes.
What? Sorry, that's not a very fun game. But if I come to you for help in my portrait photography business, what would you say as a 4?
Oh, yes. Oh, love it, love it, love it. So what is interesting is I attract 4s more than any other number in my
Seriously,
mentor. Yes, in my mentoring sessions, 4s and
we need
7s.
lots of help. We need lots of help.
I think what's helpful is, as a 3, I'm extremely decisive. And
Mhm.
so helping to understand what next steps are and when they need to be followed up on, because as 4s, they're such individuals and they know more about themselves and their aesthetic than what most people do. So whenever it comes to a branding perspective, they normally already have a gist. Like, they already have their route they want to take, and they
Yeah.
know how to communicate it. They know how to communicate their personality. It's almost like they always have these phrases that just like are their
Mm.
go-to. And it's just, I look up to 4s because I'm like, why can't I do those things? Like, why don't I know that about myself? I had to hire a branding person to be like, yeah, your personality reminds me of like these colors and here. And I'm like, oh, I can create a wardrobe around that. But it's not
Mhm.
something where I
Mhm.
went into it already
Mhm.
knowing. And so I'm partially a chameleon trying to fit into all of these pieces, whereas I really respect 4s for just already knowing and having that sense of self.
Yeah.
Um, so, from a business perspective, it's about communicating. And then normally it's around routines about constantly showing up. So,
Mm.
instead of getting down on themselves, I feel like 4s are some of the toughest on themselves. And that's the thing about the Enneagram is I can say I'm tough on myself, but whenever
Mm.
I think of a 4 mindset, I really can't even understand on what level, because 4s do tend to be even
Yeah.
harder on themselves.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh, and so
Definitely.
we work around these pieces, and it's not like if we were to be doing a mentoring session, I'm like, yeah, you're hard on yourself and you need to blah, 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 blah. But what I do is I ask questions around it. Do you feel as though this is the case? What do you think is it about this that's stopping you from moving forward? Or
Mhm.
why is social media becoming so overwhelming in the comparison game? And what can
Oh
this
my
look like?
goodness. I
Yes,
feel like you're
yes.
talking to me.
So it's and I don't consider myself an expert. You know, Enneagram hasn't said, Ellie, you are an expert. You know, like we trust you to tell people. Right. It's not even the case. It's just how healthy is it to have conversation around these pieces in your business? Because more than likely, sure, there's all these rules you could follow for Instagram and what to post and what time. And but I just want to like, ugh. I don't appreciate those things. I want to dig deeper and help people find themselves and what's stopping them to be able to switch it up to get the success that they want to see.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for playing.
Yeah, what a fun game. I think I might be the only one who thinks it's super fun, but that's okay.
I love that. I love that. I absolutely love that. And that was so on point. That was really beautiful.
Okay, cool.
And yeah, talking about like what you just said, like as showing up as their most authentic and best selves, like how do you do that as a photographer? What are your top tips for that? Like specifically, yeah, creatives, photographers who do want to show up with more honesty and be more raw, whether that's, you know, online or in their business in real life. What's the key to that?
This is not an easy answer, but I do find that we will always feel a little lost. So even when we gain momentum and we're like, yes, we found ourselves, these are my core values. Look, I've written them down on my sheet of paper. Like I've got these to look at every day. You're still going to get lost because we live in a world where we're constantly seeing the newest, next best things or new trends, and especially
in the very Enneagram 4 answer. We're always a bit lost.
Yes. And I feel like we can all fit, even for an Enneagram 1 who's all about rules, right? Well, COVID really threw ones for a loop because it's like, well, put all the old rules out the window, girl. We're starting over.
Exactly. So, sorry, I didn't want to take away from the seriousness of the moment.
No, I love it. I would have to say, if you are constantly asking for feedback, and that's what we all don't want to do, but you have to, even if it's in the form of a review, that's like your bare minimum where you have to start, because you're going to start to see the same words being used over and over, or the same phrases, or you're going to be recognized. So the more you can read your reviews, find those common terms, and just be able to then speak to that. So whenever you're feeling a little off track or a lot of off track, reviews are a great place to just get your head back in the game, to focus on the clients you already have instead of pushing and trying to be like some other photographer.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Ellie.
You're welcome.
that was a beautiful wrap up of our time together. Thank you so much for giving me part of your morning, part of your day.
Absolutely.
This was so insightful and fun.
Good. Well, you're just fun. You made this whole thing fun.
Great. I'm glad. So, like, I think this was just a great match today. It was like
it was.
It was really great getting to know you and talking to you. Thanks so much. I'm going to follow you on Instagram now.
Awesome. I'll follow you right back. I probably already should have. I'm like,
you don't have to say that, but I'm honestly super impressed, super happy to have met you today. So thank you so much. Really appreciate your time and your wisdom and your honesty.
Thank you. Thank you so much.